already in the chat this morning saying hello. Good morning, Linda. Good morning, Jacob. I want to make sure, as you can tell, I am in a different location today, and I have this like really, really annoyingly loud air conditioning box like right next to me. So let me know, am I set up okay? Can you guys hear me? Do I need to get a little closer to the mic? Is everything good? Go ahead and let me know in the comments how sound quality is so we can make sure that everyone is able to hear me today. I'm actually if you watched last week's video, I'm actually in Chicago today. So this is the best corner of the Airbnb that I could find. But if you've been a part of our lives in the past, obviously it looks a little different here. However, I will say, the lighting is impeccable here, so I might just move to Chicago. I don't know if any of y'all live in Chicago, let me know. I might be here for good because I love this place. So thank you, Wayne. Let me know everything sounds good. Thank you, Jacob. Fantastic. Okay, guys. So today is going to be a little bit different than usual. I'm going to go ahead and get started. Oh, Wayne said I'm not too far from him. Yay, that's awesome. And thank you. Actually, Beatrice just said I look great. Thank you. I just got a blowout yesterday. I've never had a blowout in my life, but me and my sister's actually here. And we had like a little self-care day around Chicago yesterday. And I went to Dry Bar for the first time. If you guys don't know what that is, it's like you literally go into this place and they wash your hair and they style it and then you leave. Like, so there's no cutting, there's no coloring, it's just styling. So thank you so much, Beatrice, for that. Okay, so I'm super excited to be here with you guys today. As always, like I said, today's going to be a tiny baby bit different. Basically, if you were on the call last week, y'all had so many great questions that we ran out of time to finish the training. So today we are going to finish part 2 of the Etsy, understanding Etsy analytics conversation that we had last week. However, I only really have like 5 or so slides left to go through based on what we were able to finish last week. So with that knowledge, I wanted to go ahead and just open up the chat to you guys, okay? So it'll probably only take me maybe 15 or so minutes to get through the remainder of this kind of part 2 training. However, I would love to kind of hear from you guys. If there's anything that happened in your shop this week that you want to celebrate, freaking tell me, pop it in the comments. If there's any questions or concerns that came up in your shop this week, again, pop it in the comments. If there's any questions you guys have about EverBee, about Etsy, about e-commerce in general, let me know. And if I can help you, that is what we're here for. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my second screen in just a second. It looks like we got a couple people live with us, around 70 or so. So I believe I've given enough time for everybody to get here. So I'll go ahead and share my screen right now. But if you want to ask any questions, please feel free to pop them in the comments. Once we're done with this part of the training, I will head directly over there and get your questions answered live, okay? Orange Villa did just ask one question. Was the last session recorded? Absolutely. So it's going to be a little weird because we really are picking up exactly where we left off last week. So if you didn't see it, I don't want to say get off this live by any means. Definitely stay and hang out with us. But I do recommend it is on our YouTube channel. And if you go to the live section of our YouTube channel, you'll actually be able to see all of the past lives that we've done. They are all actively recorded right as I get done here. So go to the YouTube channel. And then it's going to be the second video on the live because the first video is the one we're doing right now. And then the one directly after that is last week's. Okay. There you go. All right, so let's go ahead and share my screen real fast. And we're going to pick up exactly where we left off last week. So like we talked about, we were in the place of when you're kind of like understanding your shop analytics through Etsy, not through EverBee, but you're actually in your shop manager. There's a couple of different things we talked about last week. Like I said, if you did not watch that, highly recommend go and check those out. We had a really, really great conversation about all the different tabs that you could go through, different ways you can kind of view each of these things. But where we left off was offsite ads. So like we kind of talked about last week, offsite ads is kind of a controversial subject, especially on social media as it relates to Etsy performance, simply because I don't actually know why, to be honest, because I think offsite ads are amazing because I don't have to pay a dime for these ads. Like Etsy is going out and kind of doing the work for me by having these strategic partners wherever they're sending these things out. So not necessarily Google, but think like other search engines, think different places where things could be promoted, like on websites and stuff like that. Like you'll see little ads pop up all the time when you're on a website, right? So Etsy's kind of doing the work for us. However, the difference being, as you can see here, I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you guys can see. So it's a little bit different depending on when you started, how long you've been in service as a shop, and then of course, like how much money you've made in the shop. So you can see mine is a little bit different. You'll see, let's see, so you only pay the 12% advertising fee if you make a sale from these ads. Me personally, that is my shop and what I qualify for. So I highly, highly recommend when you are in your own shop manager, go down to, I don't exactly know 100% where it is, but I believe it's right under like the analytics section. It'll be like a very small thing. We talked about this last week, but it's like maybe this big, and it says like offsite ads. So it's just a little clickable link right there within your shop statistics. So the stats section. Once you click on that, you'll be able to see exactly what you can qualify for based on what your shop is currently trending as. So you'll also see down here, I don't have it highlighted and I should, but you're getting a discounted fee for the lifetime of your shop since you made blank dollars or more in the past 12 months before that time. Most sellers pay a 15% fee. I am paying 12. Okay, so I want you to go check that out for your own shop. And then also, if you are brand spanking new and you have not started this, or if you haven't seen these things happen, on last week's video, someone mentioned the first sale that they actually got in their shop was from offsite ads. So you are automatically opted into this when you start on Etsy. So I highly recommend checking that out for your shop and then figuring out exactly what you can and cannot qualify for, okay? So do that for me first before we move on, okay? The next thing I wanted to show you guys that I think is really interesting. Obviously, it's kind of blurred out, so ignore that. Sorry, I just wasn't trying to show off all of my stuff. But this is a direct screenshot from my account in/under offsite ads. So what I wanted to show you guys today that I think is very interesting about offsite ads. So actually, let me scroll up again and show you this real quick. So you'll see Etsy covers the upfront cost to promote listings on high traffic sites like Google, IG, FB, Pinterest, Bing, as well as, like we talked about, the strategic partner sites. And of course, as you see, this is a clickable link. So you can straight up go to the offsite ads section or even probably type it into Google and click on that link and see what their other partners are, right? And then you don't pay a dime until you make a sale, right? So with that knowledge that things are being promoted on those different locations, here's what I kind of wanted to show you guys that I think is really cool about offsite ads. And you can like completely disagree with this and you can say, I don't want to do offsite ads. The good news is up to a certain threshold, I believe it's 10 grand, you can opt out. So you don't have to be a part of this program at all. But here's what I wanted to show you. So you'll see, I said you'll see, but you'll see lightly a little bit that there are an advertised item column. There's also an item shopper bought column. Okay. So basically this item was advertised to, I'm looking over here at the left-hand side. This was advertised to someone somewhere, whether it be one of those Etsy strategic partner sites or it's Facebook, Instagram, Google, Bing, etc. This column is what was actually advertised to them. What's really cool on the offsite ads dashboard is you can dive into exactly what that shopper bought, even though they were advertised this one. So you'll be able to see from these first 3 examples that this was actually purchased. Like they saw it and they bought it, right? So we can see that was exactly what they wanted. The advertising was perfect in Etsy's eyes because obviously they saw it and they immediately took action. You're also going to see over here exactly what took place, which I really like as well. So for example, this one right here, April 17 at 9:26 p.m. EST. So that's what I'm on as well, EDT, whatever. And then on April 18th at 5:40 in the morning is when this was actually purchased. So what this tells me is I see this girl, guy, whatever, they saw this ad and they clicked on it at 9:26. So let's say they saw the ad at 9:20. They clicked on it at 9:26, and then the following morning, something happened. Whether they favorited the item, which by the way, you can always like check that in your own stats, by the way, on the stats of the individual listing, on all of your favorite stats, etc. So either they favorited the item, maybe they clicked add to cart, but they didn't take another action to lead to a full conversion yet until the next day at 5:36 a.m. Okay. This particular person, which was really awesome, they saw it, they clicked on it at 6:30, and then they immediately bought it at 6:45. So my thought here is, of course, that's around a 10 to 15 minute difference, give or take. So my thought was maybe this person perused around my shop a little bit. Maybe they got my profile views a little bit higher, my shop views a little higher, and then they came back and they're like, yep, this is the one for me, purchase. Or maybe they got distracted like I currently do all the time in my day-to-day life, and I just went away and did something else for 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh, I was supposed to buy that, and then they went and got it, okay? So that's really cool in the offsite ads section that I wanted to show you guys. The third thing I wanted to show you is the sale value. Okay, so again, this is a screenshot, so I can't necessarily do this, but if you hover over the question mark little icon here next to sale value, it will tell you exactly what that is. But you'll see here, I got $52.67 for this, item that this person bought. However, I am forking out $6.32 in the ad fee. So why I personally, of course, I do Etsy ads as well sometimes, not all the time. But Scott is really, really incredible. If you don't know who he is, I think it's called Brand Creators. I highly recommend you check out his YouTube. Go into our Facebook group. He has incredible posts on a weekly basis of how he has 100% cracked the Etsy code. So of course I do like Etsy ads as well, but I really, really like offsite ads because I could spend $6.32 on Etsy ads and make $0. I could spend the collective of, about $20 and make $0, right? If my things aren't optimized like they should be, if it's not hitting the right people, etc. So what I like about offsite ads is I don't get charged until I make a sale. So it's kind of, in my opinion, it's a win. But again, I'm just going to leave that in your court. I just wanted to let you guys know exactly what it was, and it's completely up to you if you like it or not, okay? The fourth and final thing that I wanted to show you about offsite ads before we move on to the remainder of the training is the very last item right here, okay? So at the very bottom, you're going to see two different mock-ups, which means that person purchased a totally different item than what they were originally presented with. So they were marketed this hoodie right here at 812 via Google, which is really cool. You'll be able to see exactly what channel brought that in. And then, they ended up buying this crew neck. Okay. So what I really love about the offsite ads in that particular case is it's really cool for me to be able to see all the other three things from this particular screenshot. They saw it, they bought it, right? So that's really awesome. And I see a tiny baby bit of a lag on one of them, but the other ones were pretty much neck and neck. Right when they saw it, they bought it. So that tells me a really good story. Another really good story I'm seeing, or I can see it as a negative story, depending on how you look at it, is they were presented with this particular item, the hoodie at the bottom, but then they decided to move on with this crew neck instead. So I could see that in two different ways. Number one, maybe the hoodie was too expensive. It was out of their price range, but they still wanted to do something in that niche. And the good news is, with a niche down store, there were plenty of other options that this person could go dive into that better fit their pricing model. Okay, so keep that in mind. The other way I could see this is maybe the hoodie is not as optimized as it should be, but the crew neck saved my butt. That's another way to look at it. And then it gives you the opportunity to think maybe the hoodie listing needs to be adjusted a little bit. Maybe it wasn't as compelling as the crew neck was, etc. Okay. So again, just always trying to be the little angel and devil on your shoulder every single week to show you truly all sides of all of the things that you guys could be diving into each time. So I wanted to just kind of go over that really quickly. We left off on it last week and I just had a couple more things to say. So I hope that helped. And it looks like Linda did have the question, how do you get to the screen to see these offsite ads sales? So give me 1 second to actually open that up for you really quickly, and I will show you exactly how to get there. So the first step is obviously to go into our shop manager, and then let me just make sure I'm going to the right place. Yes, okay, so sorry. So the next thing you're gonna do, go to the shop manager, and then the next thing is you're gonna go to settings on the left-hand side, and then about 6 or 7 down under settings, you should run into offsite ads. When you see that, it will take you to kind of this screen of sorts, and it will tell you whether you either got a purchase from there, if someone clicked on it and didn't buy, it'll show you like the little fluctuations on a daily, weekly, whatever basis. So like I said, go to Etsy, your shop manager, settings, click offsite ads, and you should be able to open this baby up, okay? All right, looks like I don't have any other questions related to this as of right now. I do see you guys dropping some questions in the comments for our chat at the end, so please continue to do that for me. And it does not have to be at all related to what we're talking about today, okay? So any questions you have, pop them in and I will set aside some time for you guys. The next thing I wanted to get in real fast was, again, this is just building off of last week, that like when you're on the shop manager stats section, we are literally just navigating through that page together. So the first thing that, or not the first, like the 7th thing technically, because we've talked about a lot over the past 2 weeks, but one of the things you'll see is shoppers viewed your listings X number of times. And then it also has this really interesting stat. This is an average of blank listing views per visit. So I actually really like seeing that number. If you guys know me at all from the past couple of weeks that we've been together, numbers tell a story. I am a very data-driven, analytics-driven girl. So when I see that's an average of 2 listings per visit, I, to be honest, want to get that up. Personally, I want to increase that, but it also tells me that's kind of nice that maybe my products are talking to that direct person. So maybe someone scrolling through Etsy, they type in a keyword or a phrase that matches something, some query that I'm currently also trying to match for. They put that in, they see one of my things, they click on that, they head to the shop. And then they maybe click on another one because that one was great and they really liked it, but maybe they weren't ready to purchase quite yet. But they decided to look at least one additional listing. So again, I personally want to get that number up because the goal of having a niched down shop is to be able to have multiple different products to increase the lifetime customer value, no matter who they are. But I'm still very happy that we're at least looking at 2, potentially more every time, averagely, of course, someone comes to the shop, okay? When you also see this, you'll see all the little mock-ups on the side, the titles, the listing name, whatever, but you'll also get to see 4 really awesome statistics: views, favorites, orders, and revenue. And the cool thing about these is you can literally do your own math very simply and say, okay, if I got, let me do some math because if y'all also know me, y'all know I suck at math. I love math. I love numbers, but I just can't do it to save my life mentally. Like mental math is not for me. Grab my calculator real quick. So what is your favorites ratio on this item? Or maybe what was your favorites ratio in the month of April? You have the very easy ability to literally grab these numbers, do some division, get that thing, okay? So the very first listing, for example, I'm gonna do 167 divided by 3317. So that is the favorites divided by the number of views, means for that particular item during the time parameter that I set for this particular list of metrics was 5.03% review rate, or excuse me, favorites rate, which is really good. Like that is above average. So I'm really happy with that. a conversion rate is 143 orders divided by 3317 views. So it was a 4.31% conversion rate. And then when we do the revenue, you could also, it's a higher return on the views, because as you can see, the revenue is 4,700 versus 3,300 in the views. So if I do, let's see, 17 divided by 4761. Dang, that's insane. That means that like potentially, I'm not with 100% certainty, but potentially 27% or more of the people that saw that listing during that time period purchased at an average, because I know my average sale price. So at my average sale price, it's around 27 to 30% of people that saw that bought it, which is really awesome. So I just wanted to show you guys how to use these numbers to be able to like actually make it make sense for your shop and make data-driven decisions for your shop. Okay. So that's number 2 for today. The third thing I wanted to get into is someone, this was, I want to say 3 weeks ago. It might've been 4 weeks ago. We had a conversation. Oh, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to get a little more comfortable. I am sitting in the world's most uncomfy IKEA chair in this Airbnb. So I gotta situate a little bit. So about 3 or 4 weeks ago, we had the conversation about this amazing feature that like not a lot of people that I talked to knew about, called search analytics. And search analytics can be so easily found. I'll actually walk you guys right through it. If you guys want to follow along with me right now, we're going to head to Etsy. We're going to head to our shop manager. You're going to click on marketing on the left-hand side. And the very first thing, if you guys have access to it, because it currently still is in beta, you might not have access to this depending on how old your shop is, but the very first thing under the marketing tab should say search analytics beta. Okay. So let me know in the comments if you do not see that, if your shop does not show that, and then I can try to find, there is a website that I can send to you guys to see if that will allow you access, but I don't know the answer to that question. So let me know if you do not see it. Shop manager, marketing should be the very first thing, should say search analytics beta. Okay. So what was so cool about this? Again, we talked lightly about this about 3 or 4 weeks ago, but basically Etsy is literally showing us exactly what keywords we performed in or didn't perform under during, again, this set parameter of time that I was looking at. So on the search analytics dashboard, again, this is right there in Etsy under your shop manager. So it should be super easy to find. It's not this like arbitrary thing or exclusive thing that like only EverBee people have. Like you guys should absolutely have access to this. And if you're brand new and or your sales are a little bit lower, it won't look like this, right? Like we all can understand that. Like if your conversion rate isn't high, or if these are all zeros, that's totally fine. But at least we know where to find this now. So when we start getting sales and or we can use this to figure out what search queries, what keywords, what search terms we should start adding in. That's what I want you guys to utilize this for, okay? So under the search analytics tab or dashboard, whatever you want to call it, they're going to give you some stuff up here, obviously, and it's going to be, again, based on the time period that you selected, right? So for this particular case, you're going to see visits, visits that converted into a sale, the average order value of those individual items. When we say AOV, by the way, average order value, we have to understand, and I hope you guys do as well. Let's say, let's go back to my home decor shop. So I had a home decor store from 2017 until like 2021, I think 2020, something like that. And I had some pieces that were huge, like things you would put over your queen size bed frame, like your headboard. So they were super big, super expensive. Then I had other things that were like this size, give or take, that were a little bit more like medium sized, mediumly expensive. Then I had small coasters that were like $10, right? So keep that in mind based on what you sell or what you want to sell. when we're seeing this number, it is $34.53 is the AOV, the average order value. So that means that you could have things that are $600 a piece and things that are $10 a piece. And it's whatever the average of all of those things during the time parameter that you set, all of those added up together, divided by the number of sales you sold. Okay? Hope that makes sense. The listings, items you sold, whatever. So that is one way to look at that. The other thing I want to say here too, as it relates to the average order value, is the 34.53 is kind of, okay, so we have to think too about how much, or I don't know if that's the right way to say that, but like how much someone purchased at one time. So I've actually had people, there was one time that someone purchased 11 things from me and I'd never talked to this person. They just bought 11 items in my store, which again is the beauty of a niche down store if you can make it work for yourself. And then I've had some people that buy one thing, and then I've had some people that buy 3 things, right? So keeping in mind too, that AOV is also impacted by that, the amount of stuff that people buy at a given time, okay? Just keep that in mind. The last thing is total earnings through Etsy search. So what's really important about the search analytics dashboard is we are talking about Etsy search only. This is not offsite ads. This is not external traffic that you bring in from social media, your website, whatever. This is also not Etsy ads. This is Etsy search. So people actively put a search query in that you came up for somehow, whether you matched it completely or you were like, couple words here, couple words there, your tags and titles, blah, blah, blah. I will show you exactly what I mean by that in just a second, but just to keep in mind, these numbers are strictly from Etsy search, okay? So now you're going to see your listings were found through blank queries. So when we say the word query, y'all let me know if I'm saying that wrong too, because it's one of those words that like when you see it enough, it doesn't look right. Like it doesn't look like it's spelled appropriately, which makes me like question everything I've ever done that I'm saying it wrong. But you'll see how many times your listings were found through these queries. And then when we say query, it's basically just like a search term. So we're going to call it that because I don't like the word query. So let's say a keyword, a single keyword, a multi-word key phrase, a long tail key phrase, doesn't matter. You'll be able to see all of these little magnifying glasses with the search terms next to them. Then you'll be able to see the impressions that that search term brought in. Okay. So like how many, and again, at all times in any of these dashboards, when you see something that is either underlined, that means it's clickable. When you see something that has a question mark, that means you can literally click on or hover over the question mark, and Etsy will tell you exactly what each of these individual metrics are. Okay. So there's the impressions. The position is the one that I really, really loved. Position means where are you being seen? Where are your listings being seen under that search query? So let's just say for shiggles today, we say mom t-shirt tie-dye. I don't know. I'm just making this up. I don't sell that, but that's the first thing I thought of. So like mom tie-dye t-shirt, whatever. Let's say that's one of them. And then this is the example that it's telling me that I am number 98 of however many listings. Like I am showing up, that is my position for at least one of the listings that I have under that search query, okay? So why this is important, the position, why this is important, there are around 70, if I'm not mistaken, someone tell me if I'm so wrong here, but if I'm not mistaken, there are 70 listings shown on every searched page. So what these numbers are telling me, these highlighted ones are the most important ones to me. We'll talk about the unhighlighted ones in a second. But these highlighted ones right here are like, okay, so I am basically, let's just use this one as the example, 94. That tells me that I am on page 2 of the search for that term halfway down. Okay, because we know, not even halfway down, like a quarter of the way down. Because if I'm right, and I could be just making this up, and I'm sorry if I am, but if I'm right, there are 70 listings, 60 to 70 listings on any search term page. Like that's what you get. And then you got to click to page 2, and then you got to click to page 3, etc. So if knowing it's between 60 and 70, and I am showing up at 94, that means page 2 is going to have anywhere between 120 to 140. That's not true. It's technically still 60 and 70, but you know what I mean? In chronological order. It's going to be between 120 to 140 of those other listings. So if I'm showing up at 94, that's telling me that this particular search term is probably doing well for me. Obviously, I want to get that position even higher, but it's telling me that I'm basically showing up on 1 1/4 page, if that makes sense. So I really want you guys to take pay close attention to where you are sitting position wise, because looking at the ones that are not performing well for me, I'm seeing this one is probably the worst one. All the other ones are kind of, except for the 159, they're all kind of the same. They're similar in proximity. But this 425, like, gotta go. Like, I don't like that. Thankfully, my conversion rate, I got $20 off of it, even though I'm sitting at position 425. Let me just do some math for us real fast. That means I'm showing up, if we're assuming around 70 listings per search page, I'm showing up on like page 6.5. And I don't know about you guys, but when I'm on Etsy, like, I am not going to page 6.5 by any means to find something. Like, I either found it or I got distracted by something else and moved on with my life, right? So when I see 425 here, that is telling my brain, I got to nix that, or I have to find a better version and test that one as well, okay? So I hope all of that makes sense. I do see, by the way, I'm not ignoring all of you. I do see all of your comments. I will be getting to all of them. Do not worry. Keep adding them in there, please, okay? The last thing I wanted to show you, really, of course, sorry, that was super loud. I'm so sorry for anyone who just got an earful from me. I hit my ring on a glass table. So obviously you can look at visits, you can look at conversion rate, revenue, etc. Dive through all of those. Those are important metrics, but I'm also looking at the listings one is really important. So like positions and listings are the ones that I really, really want you guys to focus on, because theoretically speaking, if position is right and the number of listings are right, the other 3 in the middle should also start working in your favor. So when we look at listings, I'm going to look at number 94 again. So this particular search term, again, let's just say it's mom tie-dye t-shirt. I am popping up on 1 1/4 page. So that's the one that I am performing best at, but I'm not performing the best at revenue. However, what I am seeing is 57 listings have that search term. So I might be able to increase that, because as you can see here, the one that had the most amount of revenue was applied to 86 listings. So keep that in mind, that if it's a listing or a query that's doing well for you and it's driving visits, it's driving revenue, you might want to apply that to other listings as well, okay? So I just wanted to show you guys those real fast. And then the last thing that I wanted to say is, all of these different highlighted sections all tell a story to me and basically tell me what I should move forward with in the future, okay? So if I see, I'm going to do some pairing real fast if I can do it fast enough. All right, this is a good one. All right, so if I see I am showing up on 98 for this particular search term, that's telling me that, of course, that we're on like 1 1/4, 1.5 page, give or take, right? Then I'm also seeing visits are high for that, 881. So I'm in my second position there. I'm also seeing the conversion rate for this particular item is exactly the same as my bestseller, and it brought me in almost $800 of revenue. So those are the lines that like are perfectly synchronized all the way through. My position, although I do want it to be higher, the position is working for me and it is making sales, it is getting views, it is applied to 77 listings, etc. The other thing, obviously, is to look at where you might be falling. So if we look at 95, so that was 98. Now we're looking at 95. We are showing up on page 90 or page 95. Good Lord. We're showing up on page 2 again, like 1 1/4 or so. But look at the difference between 1 1/4 for this query, 1 1/4 for that query, 800 visits, 100 visits. 2.16 conversion, 99% conversion, 0.99, and then $35 versus $800. What those two lines right next to each other are telling me is it don't freaking matter where I am positioned if my item is not a coveted item. Like I am showing up on 1.25 page on this particular search term and it's not performing like at all. It's not doing well in revenue. It's not doing well in conversion rate, and it's visits being most important. Like there's not even enough people, like as you can see here, enough people are seeing it. That's 11,000 people were shown my listing, and only, let's do some math together real fast. 101 divided by, I wish I could do this faster for y'all, 11,075. That means that good Lord, this is not good. I'm embarrassing myself. 0.91 people were impressed upon. 0.91% of people were impressed upon with my listing and went into the listing. Okay. So like that's not good, right? So that's what I want you guys to look at, these numbers, and start thinking of them like I'm using them today. Okay. Hope that makes sense. All right, there we go. I am seeing your questions. Like I said, do not worry. I will get to them in just a second. But this is probably the thing I was most excited about talking about today. So as you can see, I'm starting to get a little passionate, and this is why. So this is my digital product store. And this is where I really want you guys to, oh, good Lord, to use the the search analytics dashboard. This is why we're using it. So we already looked at these and we're like, that's great. All this is cool. These numbers help me understand things. We went through all that together just now. The second thing, and probably even more important thing that you can do, is actually click on these individual search queries themselves, and it will take you to the search itself on Etsy. You'll be able to look through, check out your competition, figure out what else you can do to fix these, right? But the other thing we can do is click on listings under that search query. So like I mentioned earlier, anything that is underlined, you can click on, right? So let's use this as an example. Let's say I click on number 86. What's going to happen is this, okay? So it's going to say blank. Obviously, it would say 86. In this case, it says 4. But in this particular screenshot, 4 listings appeared for digital product, okay? So again, it's one of these search queries up here, has 4 listings attached to it. I clicked that button that said 4, brought me here, okay? Hope we're all in the same place. From there, you can sort by a couple of different things. There's, I think, impression, reach, revenue, position, stuff like that. So basically, all of these metrics that you see, I currently just have it sorted by impression. Why this is so important though, okay? This is why I really wanted to drive through here. What we talked about a second ago was, and also what we talked about like 3 weeks ago, we're talking about Etsy SEO and how they do things based on relevancy, recency, and then obviously query matching, right? Everyone's like, what the hell, excuse my French, is query matching? Like that's a really, like it makes sense in your head if you think about it. You're like matching of queries. What's a query? Search term. Okay, so I am matching 4 search terms that people are putting into Etsy, right? People were asking me a lot, like how in God's green earth do you like match a search term? And this is exactly where you can find whether or not you are doing so, okay? So in the search analytics dashboard, you're gonna see, in this particular case, digital product is the query that we are looking at. Under each of the individual listings, obviously I only have 3 screenshots here, but under each of the individual listings, you'll be able to see something called matching values. And that blew my mind. I was like, where has this been all of my Etsy life? Obviously, this is in beta, so Etsy is seeing that like the way to make them more money is to make us more money, right? So they're trying to give us as much information, as much data as possible. So when we see matching values, your title had digital and digital products, which is, give or take, a direct match. Then in my tags, I also had digital bundle, digital training, product ideas, which means digital product, or these individually, and that individually. So that's literally Etsy telling us you are trying to perform under this query And here are exactly how each of the individual listings did that for you. Okay. So I highly recommend checking this out for yourself. Again, let me know in the comments if you do not have access to search analytics. It will change the way that you look at your search terms forever. So I highly, highly recommend you check those out. And these are also some things that I wanted to show you real fast. Of course, you can find all of this within your search analytics terms. It'll tell you exactly what each of these kind of definitions are. So if you're wondering, like we talked about, what is a search query? That's the answer. If you're wondering what the impressions are, that's the answer. So you can find these very simply right there in the dashboard, but I wanted to make sure that you guys had access to see those. The final thing, the fifth and final thing of today's training before I move on to getting to your questions is there is actually a, what's it called? Growth tips tab. As you can see, this is also in beta as well. So I gave you some quick examples of what to do. All you got to do is go to your shop manager, like usual, on the left-hand side. Instead of stats, we have now removed ourselves from stats. We have removed ourselves from marketing. Now we are in growth tips. So this is actually something that Etsy just did for us recently that kind of allows us to see, you know, what our growth checklist is for our own brand. What do we want to do that, again, will allow us to have more personalized ideas, tips and tricks, etc., to grow our exact shop based on our goals. So you can see you can switch your goals at any time, but here's an example. Build trust with buyers, stand out in search, market and promote your shop. And the cool thing that Etsy does is each of these are clickable and it will literally take you to the right place. So right here, for example, stand out in search, use human-friendly titles that buyers can easily read, the first 60 characters, blah, blah, blah. If you click update titles, it will take you literally directly to the ones that need to be adjusted. So yours might look a little different than this compared to what you need to enhance in your shop. But I did just want to bring some notice to this, that the growth tips section should not be something to overlook. If you are struggling, if you are trying to just learn a little bit more from Etsy and not a YouTuber, I highly recommend checking that out, okay? All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and remove my screen and open up the comments. I know that you guys have a lot of questions. I have a lot of comments coming in, so I want to make sure I utilize the rest of our time today to kind of talk about it together. I am gonna, someone made fun of my shiggles comment. I probably shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry, EverBee. But we are about to go, me and my sister are about to go tour around Chicago and do a little architecture tour I'm very excited about. So I will be tuning out in just a little while, but as always, I do want to make sure I can get these questions. So let's head over here real quick. All right, so A-Rod said, can you sign up for monthly billing or must it be annually? So I'm assuming she is talking about an EverBee subscription, and yes, you can absolutely sign up for both. I will say from experience, the annual plan is gonna save you, I don't want to say this wrong. It's a good amount of money. I'm not going to lie. It's a chunk of change that's worth it if you plan on utilizing EverBee to its fullest capacity all year long. The annual plan is a freaking no-brainer to me personally. I bought it multiple times for multiple different stores. But if you do want to have a month-to-month, that is an option as well. Absolutely. All right. Someone said, do I have to create another of the same listing if I end up making the item myself? When it's local, it's cheaper if I did it at home, but when it's out of country, I use my print on demand. C. Gills, if you don't mind, is there any way that you could elaborate a little bit on that question? I know you already did in the question, but I'm kind of confused on exactly what you're asking. Do I have to create another of the same listing if I end up making the same item myself? I'm going to go ahead and take a stab at the answer, but let me know if this is not what you needed, and if so, please elaborate on the question. What I'm assuming you are saying is if you are doing a handmade item versus a print on demand item, do you have to make it from scratch, even if it's the same thing? So let's just say this cup, and then you put Leslie across the front of it, and you can buy this from Printify, Printful, wherever, or you can make it yourself at home. Let's say you buy this cup and you put Leslie on it, whatever. I'm assuming that's what you're saying. And the answer is abso-stinkin-lutely. Like, you need to have two different listings because lots of different reasons, but for one, a print on demand provider is unfortunately kind of like wholly responsible for like the fulfillment, unfortunately and fortunately. It's amazing to have a print on demand provider, but you are not responsible, even though you are because you're the shop owner. Like you can't touch it. You can't do quality control. You can't guarantee it looks a certain way, but with a handmade item or a local seller, you absolutely can. So 100% you would have to do 2 listings if you planned on doing the same item, but for 2 different types of ways to sell it, if that makes sense. Strictly for one of those reasons, obviously, like I said, being you have access to quality control if you're the one doing it. The shipping situation is also going to be very different because your print on demand provider is going to be wholly responsible for fulfillment, printing, distribution, shipping, etc. So like you would have to have a secondary listing if you were shipping it out yourself. So again, let me know if I did not understand that question and let me know if I didn't answer it right. Okay, so I already answered that one. Beautiful. Oh, everyone said I was saying query right. Solid. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so someone asked, very good question. So Heather asked, is there any way of changing the coupon percentage on favorited items? That is such a good question. And I wish the answer was yes. The answer is no, unfortunately. In Etsy's automatic coupons, it is 10% no matter what. Add to cart, favorites, thank you, like letters for like buying something. So the answer is no. However, I don't know if this is good advice, so I don't know if I want to say it, but I'm thinking like if you could create a coupon that doesn't have to do with favorites, but it could be for another metric that you're interested in increasing, you can do that yourself through a coupon that you create in the run a sale or create a promo code section of Etsy. The automatic ones, we cannot adjust, but we can create our own from scratch. The only problem being it's not tracked. So you would create a promo code and then give it to someone to be like, go favorite something. And that's not how it works because the promo code is going to be directly related to the buying of an item. So if someone favorites something and you want to send them a coupon after the fact that you saw that they favored it, that's up to you. But if you're waiting on the automatic ones, the answer is no, we cannot change those. Someone asked, Anika Blake, I'm so sorry if I'm saying that wrong. I butcher names constantly. If you're sitting low in a position number, what are the strategies to increase your listing to higher pages? Great question. Kind of utilizing the 425, for example, that we showed that like I was not doing too hot on that one. I would just nix that search term itself, or I would dive deeper into the search term to see if there was any other ones that I could perform higher for. Because when we're talking about the position, you have to understand that that one search term does not dictate your position. That is one search term out of a potential like 43 other ways to land in a position. That's just the position that you are coming up for that particular search term. So when we look at the word position, the column position, don't put too much importance on that and be like, oh, I have to change all of these things because like I said, it's just the position for that one search term. Okay. So if you are performing like, for example, let's say mom tie-dye t-shirt is the 425, but then mom tie-dye bracelet is the 94. And you see that of the 425, let's say you have maybe 2 listings applied to that, but you see that you also maybe could move mom tie-dye bracelet down to that listing. Your position might change, okay? Because like I said, it is strictly related to the search term itself, okay? Hope that answers your question. Let's see. Nice. Love it. Very smart. Oh, thanks, guys. They all said it was great. Oh, someone also said, I'll love the architecture tour. I'm so excited. Yes, it is 80 degrees today, and I am very happy to be here. Okay, so if you change your product niche in an old store and relaunch the store, will that confuse Etsy, or should a new store be created for a new niche? Woo! Okay, hold on. Let me digest that one. So what's interesting here is you actually don't, this is up to you completely. Like I always say on these calls, go wherever your heart goes, or is telling you to go. Do not listen to me. Like do what you want. Yeah, I always call it tummy talks. Like if you feel something in your stomach, it's not Leslie. So listen to your tummy talks. But in this particular case, she's asking, if you change your product niche in an old store and relaunch the store, will it confuse Etsy, or should a new store be created instead? So my thought would be, it depends. The answer, I don't know if there's the answer per se, but one of the answers is if you already have sales in a store, I would hate to lose those sales, and I would hate to lose the volume that you are showing up in search. And I would also hate to lose the reviews that you potentially have gotten, the favorites that you've gotten. Like all of those things, like we've talked about forever, is actions that someone is actively taking. If we start from zero, if we start all over again just because we're choosing a new product, I think that's only going to potentially hurt you, simply because you have to go get all of those actions all over again. And that's, as we all know, that takes a little bit of time. So my personal thought there, it's completely up to you, of course, take it or don't take it. But my personal thought would be to keep the current store, add a new product, and start utilizing the right tags and titles for that new niche. But keep it in the same shop, because like I said, I don't want you to use those super valuable metrics you already might have, okay? Someone else said, I have a fairly new shop, 2,500 views, but only 19 clicks. And it says 0 listings was found by Etsy SEO. 1 second, let me do some math. All right, so that means you're basically at a 0.76. Let's just make it easier, say 0.75 view ratio, which is like a click-through rate. So people are seeing your things and then they're clicking through. We're at basically we're less than 1%. So I do want to get that higher. I would recommend getting between the 2 to 5% range at minimum for a click-through rate would be awesome. He's saying, you know, what am I doing wrong? If 0 listings were found by SEO, that means more than likely your SEO is off. So that means that the search terms that you're using, they're not matching the queries that people are putting in to Etsy. So I highly recommend taking a look at all of the search terms that you're using, go into search analytics and see exactly, you know, what things either are performing, what position you're in, what views those particular search terms are getting. Obviously, if you have an EverBee subscription, go to product analytics and then look at your competitors in that space and see what tags they're using. Check out the tag analyzer in EverBee to be able to see every tag that every seller is using in that space. That might help boost that a little bit. Because the good news is you're already getting 2,500 views. So that means you are technically showing up a good amount in different spaces that you want to be showing up for. However, people are not actively going through. So the second part to that answer would be making sure that your listings are compelling enough to click through. Because let's say you are being viewed 1,000,000 times and only 10 people are actually clicking through. That's technically not an SEO thing. That is a listing thing. So I would highly recommend the first photo of your listing needs to be more optimized, as well as potentially utilizing video because those, I think less than 30% of Etsy sellers are using video right now, and that can help you stand out, okay? Let's see. All right. I think, okay. So last question we have today is, can I please clarify how the keyword score works? Could we have a 0 score, but those keywords combined still work? I find them in search as what customers used, although with 0 score. That is an interesting question. So with a keyword score, let me pull this up real fast for you. 1 second. All right, so the keyword score is I just want to make sure I had the exact verbiage for you. The number of searches divided by the number of listings that show up for the keyword. Obviously, a higher score gives you more value, but it also it depends on how you actually incorporate it into your strategy. So like you just said, can I do other things and still make that one work? I do think it's worth testing lower search volume keywords if you believe your exact buyers are searching that term and you can prove that it's been validated. However, I would say that, like I said, the exact definition is number of searches for that term divided by the number of listings that are showing up for that term. So keep in mind, that's exactly how to get to the keyword score. And I personally believe the higher the keyword score, the better, but also being very mindful that it's a computer and it's not a human. We are not going through all this data and deleting anything that's misspelled or anything like that. So I like to use the keyword tool, the keyword research tool, and the keyword score kind of just as a tool, quite literally, to be like, okay, I really like finding niches. I really like finding products. I really like finding potential buyers through the high keyword scores rather than utilizing the keyword itself. Hope that makes sense. But of course, you also can try that as well. Okay, guys, so I think that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you guys all for still being here. We got about 80 or so people hanging out with me still. So I'm going to go walk around Chicago and enjoy this beautiful weather, but I really do hope this was pretty easy to understand, and I broke it down for you guys as much as possible. I hope you were able to jump into your own search analytics, and of course, if you guys need any further help, go back and watch this video. It's going to be live it's live right now, but it's also going to be recorded on the YouTube channel. And also, if you're not in the Facebook group, I do even more stuff in there as well. So highly recommend you jump into our private Facebook group as well. And of course, like Moonchild Celine just said, if you guys would be so kind, anybody who's still with me, to like this video and subscribe to the channel so I can continuously help even more people on a weekly basis. Okay. So again, thank you guys so much for being here, and I will talk to you next week. See ya.